Hi everyone, this video is just to show you a great haul I found recently. I was at my local game store here in Phoenix and I saw a big table that was packed with role-playing game manuals, and they said that they were free to a good home, so I grabbed a whole bunch of them. A lot of them are really interesting, and they're great for world building, they're great for doing RPGs. Even if it's not in the RPG that you're using, a lot of stuff from other RPGs can be adapted. So I got this stuff for the world building, for the maps, and just for fun, because I like the pictures, frankly. So I'll show you some of the stuff that I got. I got a couple things from Spelljammer, which is from Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, so 2nd edition. And as far as I have learned, it's a Dungeons & Dragons, but in space. Space in quotation marks. So it's set in a kind of Aristotelian outer space, where you have ships that sort of fly throughout the ether. There's things like the crystalline spheres that are holding the planets in place, I think. There's concepts like phlogiston, fun things from a pre-Copernican view of the universe. But it's all worked out to be more realistic, so you can have these kind of fantasy adventures in space. It's a way to sort of combine fantasy and science fiction. It's a neat idea. Now, a lot of this stuff I'm not going to use. I don't play Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. But a lot of it, the world building, can have provide lots of inspiration for other stuff. Lots of neat maps, lots of cool pictures. And what I like about this one, comes with a big map. You know, more supplements should come with giant maps like this. Alright. So this is a map of the Rock of Brawl. Brawl? Not sure how to say that. Let me fold it over here. At the top of it. The Rock of Brawl. This little mini map over here. The different districts within the city. I think it's a large map of a city that's floating on a big rock in space. And it's mostly covered with a city, it looks like. And probably a port town of some sort. References to all the different parts of the town. And you can see some details of how the town is laid out. I think the layout of this town is pretty good. It looks fairly close to what a medieval city would look like. I'm still planning on making some videos in the future about how to draw cities. This is better than some of the ones I've seen before. Looks like some sort of rich district over here. Let me see the bottom of the city over there. And this is the underside. So I guess this is actually the underside of the rock. I assume that gravity works, that everything's being pulled toward the center of the rock, so you can have things on the other side. I haven't read these books in great detail, I just picked them up. But I like big maps. So we can see other little areas. I think it's, yeah, so it details each of the different places within the big map. So as you travel around, you can get a clear sense of where you are. So it's basically a city module, which is really cool. Some other Spelljammer stuff. This one's on gray space. I think it's on just the universe in general, different planets that people can go to. Religions. As you can see, people seem to fly actual sailing ships, but they just sail the ether instead of sailing the 7 seas. It's a very original idea for a science fiction / fantasy universe. Adapting an old concept of the universe for fantasy role-playing. There was a science fiction book written on this subject, actually using this, like, similar tropes. I think it was called Celestial Matters, or something like that. Heavenly Matters, Celestial Matter, something like that. I'll try and look it up again. It was very interesting. It was a science fiction book set modern day, but with a radically different history, in which Aristotelian science turns out to be true, and then he thoroughly works out the consequences of if Aristotelian physics were true. And it's very bizarre, but a great instance of of world building and of working things out to their logical conclusion. So this one's called The Heart of the Enemy. I think it's an actual adventure module. Yes, a module for levels 8 to 11. And I think this is just an adventure. Phlogiston and Beyond. I don't know if all of you have heard of Phlogiston before, but it was an old concept of how fire worked, essentially. And it was later replaced. But it was fun because it was so worked out. And it was actually based on a lot of experiments, although they were just they ended up interpreting some of their experiments a bit wrong. A lot of the Earths in this are flat, it looks like. So this is just chapters, adventures, things that could happen in the story. Could be fun to adapt to another game that I'm playing. Let's see, what else do I have here? I have something from Forgotten Realms. Menzoberranzan. I think it's a Drow Underdark kingdom. Lots of detail. It has a good deal of maps. I don't know if I can find them again. Oh, there's one. One of the reasons I picked this up is that in my current campaign, there's a Drow Underdark. So this could be useful or provide ideas. Role-playing game books are mostly just world-building manuals, a lot of them. I enjoy reading them for fun, just because a lot of world-building ends up being for novels or things like that. Oh, here's a three-dimensional dungeon. That's pretty cool. But role-playing games, you have whole manuals that are just pure world-building. So you can get a lot of inspiration from them. Yep. That's pretty neat. Let's see. Oh, I have more. I picked up a couple other Forgotten Realms things as well. This one is the DM sourcebook for the Realms. So the Forgotten Realms, I believe, is with a large campaign setting used for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. It shows up in other things as well. So I like the paper looks old, kind of brownish font. Makes it a little bit harder to read, but very flavorful. Background information, stuff the GM needs to know. Months of the year, events that happen throughout the year. Characters that you might meet. Again, lots of interesting ideas. Not a lot of maps in there, which is a bit disappointing. But there are more of them in this, which is the Cyclopedia of the Realms for Forgotten Realms. So we see things like some nice big city maps. Have here. This is neat. It looks like it's called Shadowdale and Vicinity. So we have a large forest, and we have roads going through here, and we have sections near the road that are blocked off into farms, which is cool, and I think it's fairly realistic. Little towns and things nearby. The more maps, the better. Myth Draenor, circa Year of the Tusk and Year of the Worm. So this is maybe how a city is developed over time, or if something that happened to a city. Parts of it were destroyed, perhaps. Mentions Neverwinter, which became popular in the video game Neverwinter Nights. That was set in the Forgotten Realms. Immerse, looks like another town. I envy the guys who got to draw maps for a living. Role-playing game books. It's another interesting one. Some of the maps that have been done for 3rd edition are really fantastic. There's a couple of fantasy map makers who've just done a lot of those maps and hired a number of times, and their work is just incredible. It's like house symbols, or some symbols of different deities, it appears. Yeah. Language. So we see some world building in how they're designing language. Though it's not really a language, it's more like a cipher. Since they have symbols that correspond to virtually every letter of the English alphabet, which is unrealistic. Most languages don't have a one-to-one correspondence with English letters, but this would make it easier to transcribe things into another glyph system if you're doing something in an RPG. I like this weird little number system down here. Reminds me a bit of the Dunny number system in the Myst series. What else have we got? Oh, I found a couple of things from Planescape. Book of Chaos, or the Planes of Chaos, Book of Chaos. So, Planescape, I guess you can always just look it up. I did a little bit of research on it. It's just a setting that takes place across all the planes. So it's sort of a central node where people can travel to lots of different parts of the all the different planes in the Dungeons & Dragons universe. As a result, it has a lot of kind of weird fiction and weird horror elements, which is cool. I like that a lot. Lots of great illustrations in this one too, which is why it stood out to me. Detailing different planes, or the planes of chaos, I suppose, in particular. Pandemonium. The artist clearly had a lot of fun with these. You can go to some crazy places. If I recall right, the video game Planescape Torment, set in the same universe. I've never really played that. Or I played a little bit of it, but I never got through very much of it. Other people say it's very good. And they're making a sequel to it, which is going to be set in Numenera, which is another RPG universe. And yet somehow connected to the Dungeons & Dragons universe if it's part of Planescape. I don't know how that works out. But regardless, it was on Kickstarter, I believe. This is one of the favorite books, my favorite books that I picked up. Lots of very flavorful, very interesting world building that can be applied to almost any campaign. There isn't a whole lot of stats, as you may have noticed. It's just background information and lore, which is always fun. I got a monstrous compendium from Planescape. We got our cool monsters. Like I said before, these monsters have some very interesting flavor to them. They're very strange, otherworldly, because of course they come from different planes. This is closer to how I feel a fantasy universe should look, with very unexpected creatures and enemies. These giant frog creatures again. The Slod, apparently. I don't really understand the advanced Dungeons & Dragons system, since I mostly play 3rd edition / Pathfinder. There are some similarities, though. And it can always be adapted. You can always estimate your own stats. A nightmare. Some of this artwork reminds me of the artwork from some of the Final Fantasy games, actually. A Malefont? Mylefont? A Baku. I like this a lot. I'll be looking at this more. And a couple other things I found. This isn't too interesting. I picked up some character sheets from D&D. Although I guess there's really no reason to pick these up. I mean, they were free, but you can always print them out from online if you want to. And I found a 3rd edition monster manual. That was surprising that no one had picked that up since it was free. But yeah, this stuff could be very easily adapted to Pathfinder. And again, lots of great art, great information. As you may have realized by now, I just enjoy reading RPG manuals for fun. But this was quite a treasure trove. Yeah, thought you guys might like to see that. If you have any questions about them, I'll try and answer them. But yeah, I'll see you next time, and I'll try to make some videos soon about city map making, and possibly about how to name things on maps, which I've been thinking about a lot. So, I'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching.